Those who don't know me, my name is Adam Tima. I'll be your host for the next hour or so. We're going to be talking about the state of the media and where it stands right now. What I have done is invited a couple of guests in that are both working in the industry, studying the industry, teach about the industry, so you get a better idea of what it's all about, where it's going, and if you want to get into it, what you might need to do in order to make that happen. As always, as my class know, once in a while we get a Twitter feed going up, and it's up this morning. So if you have questions you'd rather not raise your hand about, but you instead would like to tweet about or comments, things like that, please try and keep it as civil as possible. The hashtag for the conversation is always GOUR1500. If you would like to contact at least two of the guests up here, I have their Twitter handles up already, as well as posted the first tweet that I put up for the conversation today. So, that is what's going to be happening in class. With that said, I'm going to move down the table here, and then we'll start actually at the far end, so Maureen can catch her breath. So, first and foremost, Maureen Kaufman is an alum of the School of Communication here at UNO, and she is currently producing 6 and 10, or 10 still? Or
all over the place.
She's producing a lot of the news you see on WOWT, Channel 6, the NBC affiliate in town here. Next, Maureen is Matt Hansen. Matt Hansen is currently a columnist, the newest columnist, I guess, sort of. It's not really new anymore. I mean, you've been there doing it for a while. At the Omaha World Herald. Before that, he wrote several different areas or beats for the World Herald, and before that, wrote for Bill Starr down in Lincoln, and we'll talk to a little bit about his experience as a newspaper reporter and what he has done. Next to Matt is Dr. Sherry Wilson. Dr. Sherry Wilson is a professor at the School of Communication, and she is the division coordinator for what has been now newly minted as the Journalism and Media Communication Division in the School of Com. If you have questions about how the department works, how it functions, how to get into it, how you be a major in this thing called media, she's the person to talk to. That's why she's here. So, she also, on top of that, studies ethics and law, and was a copywriter for a number of years. She knows both the insides and the outsides, how the system works. Next, Sherry is Dr. Jeremy Lipschultz. Dr. Lipschultz is also a professor in the School of Communication. His areas of research have moved a little bit since he started, but most recently, he has become basically one of our social media gurus in the department. Yes, a lot of gesticulation. Coffee has kicked in already this morning. So, is finishing a book on social media and how it's kind of sitting in the current state of it right now, and is willing to talk about pretty much everything from when he started doing radio in his base when he was 4, something like that, or until what he's doing now. So before we get started, and I hand the floor over to Jeremy, please give him a warm welcome. Thank you all so much. You will also notice that both, at least Jeremy and Maureen, will be snapping pictures on their various devices throughout the course of the morning. Don't worry, it's all going on Twitter. You're fine. Only everyone on the planet can see it, so it's okay. So I'm going to start with Dr. Lipschultz, and we're handing devices off and getting things moving. Selfies, it would appear, of Maureen talking. Okay, so here we go. Newest word added to the Oxford Dictionary, selfie. It's just came out recently, I think. So I want to start with Dr. Lipschultz, and the first question I'd like to ask with these panels is, how did you get started in this? How did you get to where you are now? What's your story with the media?
Well, I was growing up in Chicago, which is a very media-rich market. At that time, it was the second largest media market in the country to New York. Now it's third. My parents were really into media. They didn't work in the media, but there were 4 Chicago newspapers that we had at our house growing up, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. When I was about 9 or 10, all news radio kicked in Chicago at WBBM. Very competitive television market with the 3 owned and operated TV stations in Chicago. And then WGN, which became a superstation during the cable. We were talking about cable during the cable era. So it was kind of a natural thing for me to be interested. And it was the 1960s, and there were 2 radio stations that were on AM that were in a classic head-to-head Rock and Roll Radio Battle, WLS and WCFL. And I would stay up nights later than I was supposed to because I had an older brother, 6 years older, and we'd listen to WLS, to WCFL, very creative time in AM radio, and it drew me in. I'm a big believer in what Warren Buffett talks about when he talks to students. Find your passion and run with it. Do something that you want to get up every day and you don't feel like, oh, I got to go to work. Get up and go do something you really want to be doing. And that's what I wanted to do at the time. So I went to a college radio station at Illinois called WPGU. It was one of the few commercial student-operated radio stations. And by the way, I see Jodine Brownlee is here, and we have a student who is the National Radio Personality of the Year, Mr. 60.
Mr. 1960.
Mr. 1960.
Matthias Jeske, the Wax Museum on Map Radio. Thank you.
Which is, I got 1,200 applicants.
Actually, 1,350.
1,350 submissions, and he's number one. So that's kind of stuff we were trying to do in college. And in fact, we got a little Facebook group going now of alumni from the station, and it's scary because people have dug up the old photos that I'd never seen before and started tagging me.
I didn't know that part.
It's a closed group, thankfully. It's very incriminating. So I did radio for a while, worked in Southern Indiana, and to make a long story short, went back, did my PhD, came here, and got into the internet, and we'll talk about that later.
Cool. Sherry, how about you?
I got interested in journalism, I guess, in high school when I found that I really enjoyed writing. And I remember talking to a guidance counselor who said, well, maybe you want to consider journalism as a career. I went to a small high school in Minnesota. We really didn't have a lot in the way of journalism. But when I went to college, I was considering majoring in journalism or math. And I took a calculus class that was at 7:30 in the morning, 5 days a week, my first semester in college, and decided I didn't want to be a math major. So that kind of left me going the journalism route. I was editor of my college newspaper for a couple of years, ended up working at a small daily as my first job right out of college in Fort Dodge, Iowa. The Fort Dodge Messenger, was a reporter covering all kinds of things for a number of years. Got into editing while I was still in Fort Dodge. Found that I kind of enjoyed that and had some skills with it. So I ended up moving to Marshall, Minnesota, which was also a small daily, and I was editor of the newspaper there for a number of years. I ended up deciding that I wanted to go back to school to get my master's degree and consider teaching, so I went to Iowa State to get my master's. Also got my PhD from the University of Minnesota, and while I was there, I also worked as a copy editor at the St. Paul Pioneer Press. And then I came here and have been teaching journalism and related classes at UNO for quite a while. I've spent about equal amounts of time in the professional world and in the academic world. So, and now, of course, the field is changing greatly, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about today, I guess. Although a lot of the fundamentals of journalism, good writing, good interviewing skills, being able to talk to people, find information, those are still relevant today, just as they were, when I started quite a few years ago.
Hi, I'm Matthew Hansen. I work at the World Herald. I started in journalism as well when I was in high school, basically because I was good at nothing, and then I started working for the school paper and realized I was good at one thing, basically, so I stuck with it. I really like to write. Journalism's cool, I think, to me because I was also a really shy kid, in my head a lot, and journalism offers, I think, all sorts of social outcasts and misfits a way to kind of plug into society, be curious, and and sort of figure out how to exist in what I think is a really fascinating profession in kind of a fascinating way. So I went to college at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, worked at the school paper there, took some internships, and started at the Journal-Star when I graduated, moved to the World Herald 7 years ago, and for the last year I've been a columnist at the World Herald, basically focusing on stories about people, which I think is it's an interesting conversation when we talk about the future of journalism and sort of what still works about journalism and what doesn't.
Hello, my name is Maureen Kaufman. As Dr. Tina mentioned, I am an alum of the University of Nebraska Omaha School of Communications, so I wanted to one of you guys. I was one of you guys once, you know, in these chairs. Didn't do this class, but yeah, broadcast major, everything else. You know, I knew that I had to start early. You know, that's just the way my whole life has been, starting things early, starting young. I got my first staff TV job at WWT6 News. That's what we're going by now, by the way. WWT6 News, not Channel 6 News. WWT6 News is our brand. When I was 19, I was a part-time production assistant. You know, I had Dr. Wilson, Dr. Tima as professors. You know, I knew Dr. Lipschultz all through school, and you know, they all guided me to where, you know, where I needed to be. Like if I had questions, I needed help, I needed to find. You know, and I started working at UNO Television my first year of college here, for my freshman year, starting it. And I learned so much through Markdale and working for the UNO TV crew here. And the cool thing is you get paid to learn here if you work for UNO TV. So he's downstairs, you can find him, he's there, and you can tell Maureen Kaufman told you, wow, UNO TV would be something cool to do. I did National Broadcast Society here on campus. I was president a couple of years. Went to various broadcast conferences, we won some awards, et cetera, et cetera. And then, you know, WWT6 News, they gave me opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. It's definitely hard work, a lot of sacrifice, those types of things. I think I'm running on 4 hours a day of sleep. I think. Just because it's crazy, right? It's sweeps our ratings period, and it's the Olympics, so it's like everyone is watching us. People who don't watch us are watching us, so it's like high intensity right now. So please forgive me because I'm just a little tired this morning. So yeah, and then, you know, around my senior year of school, they offered me full-time status, and I was like, oh my gosh, a full-time gig in TV. Wow, I can't believe this. And so I took it, you know, I went to school as a reporter and maybe tried anchoring and these kinds of things, but like opportunity after opportunity kept happening with production. And, you know, it kind of switched gears, and that's what happened. And now I'm the senior director now. I've been the senior director for since I was 23. I'm 26 now. And been rocking out ever since. Most recently, very excited to tell you guys about this. I had accepted a freelance opportunity in Los Angeles last month. And I worked at NBC LA, which is owned and operated, O&O, by NBC Universal for 3 weeks. I had to use all my vacation to do it, but I didn't care. I worked at Market too. So I'm really happy to tell all of you that because, oh my gosh, even you from Omaha can make it big. It can happen. So don't ever give up on your dreams. Okay.
So one of the questions that I like to ask is, where are we with the media right now? I mean, we represent up here any radio, television, newspaper, social media, online. Where are we with where the media is right now? And maybe we can start in Omaha. What's the media market like in Omaha? What's the state of it in Omaha? And then we can expand out a little bit from there. And I'm just going to open up. Anyone who wants to go first, go for it. Who wants to jump off that, you know, very large?
I can talk about the World Herald real quick.
Cool.
I mean, the World Herald's a little bit of a outlier in the sense that it was employee-owned newspaper, wasn't part of the big newspaper companies that have faced so much trouble in the last 10 or 15 years. It was bought by Warren Buffett a couple years ago, which is nice for the people who work at the World Herald because it offers some stability that a lot of people at a lot of newspapers don't have. It's in relatively good shape. I mean, it's in better shape than it was when I started there, and it's in better shape than most of the newspapers in the country. There were 2 rounds of layoffs at the World Herald. I think the last was in 2008. And I think we're one of the few newspapers that is now actually adding staff. We've probably added between 5 and 10 people. I mean, we're at a higher staff level than we were a couple years ago. So I think the state of the World Herald is actually pretty strong, relatively speaking, as compared to other newspapers.
I think for WWT16, sorry, low thing, but I have to say it. But I really think that things are turning around for us too. You know, you talked to me about a year and a half ago, I'd probably tell you no, it wasn't. We have added positions also, actually. We just got done hiring a reporter, a daybreak host. We hired another, what I do is called, I'm a technical media producer, we can get into that later, but I tell them I'm a director because that makes sense. So TMP, we just hired one of those, we're about to hire another one of those. So we're actually gonna backfill my department, which is awesome. And yeah, I think we're hiring a couple other people too, and so that it's a nice, refreshing thing to have going on in a company you're working for. So yeah, it's a good thing.
How do things look for both newspaper and television in this market? I mean, this overall, not just your brands in particular, but how do you two see just the market in general looking right now? Is it strong? Is it in flux? Well, we've been hearing, death knell stories about traditional media for the last 10 years. And I mean, what's going on with it?
My sense of American newspapers are that they're obviously in trouble. They've been in trouble for a while. They're not as much trouble as people sort of think, I think. Sort of the death of newspapers has been a story that you've heard since I was in college. That was 15 years ago. They're still around. They're still going to be around. There are a lot of reasons for that. One of the interesting things, just to take it back to the World Herald for a second to illustrate a point, the World Herald subscription base has dropped, I don't know the percentage, but let's just say 15% in the last 20 years. Okay, I'm just making that number up just to be clear, but it definitely has gone down, as has every American newspapers face the same thing. People don't subscribe to the newspaper as much as they once did, successive generations. And that's a scary thing for newspapers because we make our money from advertising specifically in the physical newspaper. That's how newspapers make money, not subscription, circulation, anything like that. Omaha.com actually has grown at a rate that's much quicker. It's grown faster than the subscriptions have declined. So, people think, oh, yeah, the newspapers are in trouble, they're dying. That has a lot to do with the financial side of things and how to make revenue. But the truth is there's more eyeballs on the Omaha World Herald today probably than there ever has been in history. And that's true for a lot of newspapers. It's the goal then becomes, okay, people still want this product. How do we make money off Omaha.com or off NewYorkTimes.com or any other newspaper website? And newspapers haven't been able to figure that out yet. Basically, at best, most newspapers run a revenue neutral website, and they need to figure out how to make money off that to support the newspaper as the print advertising money continues to go away.
Maureen, what do you think? How's TV looking in general in the market?
I'll be completely honest.
I'd expect nothing less.
No, I don't like to be a Debbie Downer or anything like that, but you just need to hear it. So 5 years ago, well, it's been 5 years, my station announced that they were going HD and automation in production. Now, HD is a very exciting thing. Everybody wants to go HD, right? You probably have high definition TVs at home, correct? Yes, big screen TVs. So, our station is ahead of the curve. Like, we are 10 years advanced in technology than anybody else in this market. With that said, with automation comes layoffs. All right. So I was working in production. I told you I was granted full-time status my senior year here or something like that. At the end of the I don't remember when it happened. It's all a blur, to be honest. But they basically took us, they put us in a meeting, and they took production and master control together, okay, 2 different departments, but overseen by the same department heads, right? And it was an interesting meeting, because the day before, I was made full-time, okay? So the next day, like, yeah, make sure you come to this meeting morning, blah, blah, we're gonna make some announcements. I'm, okay, cool, and like, I'm all, like, excited, like, ear to ear, because I just been made full-time, because it was unheard of at this time, like. Anyway, I find out, they tell us that we're going HD automation, this brand new thing, and they tell these 2 departments, and I was in production, that the first round of layoffs were going to be the part-time people. They made an investment in me, so I was saved. Then it became like, and you know, I'm not trying to give this a bad name, I'm just being honest, okay? We called it Channel 6 Survivor Island, all right? So there are 6 full-time spots that are going to be available, that who they are going to be, okay? And like the automation is called Ross Overdrive. It's not being taught anywhere that I know of, all right? So if you do get hired in my station, you will have little to no experience, which I'm just fine with, it's fine, and I'll just train you because that's what I do with everybody else. But what happens is, so like, you only need 1 person to put on a show. That's how we do things. So it's a one-man band. So me, as a technical media producer, you know, 10-15% of my job is directing. The rest is all the on-air content. What I do, it's called coding. It's like a newsroom program. You throw code in these scripts. Each code tells what camera to go where, to what shot, to what anchor. It tells it which mic to put up. It tells it which iris, which focus it needs to go to. It tells it all these things. Like everything, like, you know, you go downstairs to TV and you see the Omaha News put on, yes, or maybe not there yet, but you go see it. It's on Wednesdays. Dr. Allen heads it. It takes like 12, 14 people, right? But it's not like that anymore. We still have a prompter person in the studio, thank God, because we pushed for that, because they're kind of giving cues, like, and still even standbys, but they also know how to do what I do. So like when I did the morning show, we would switch chairs, is what would happen. And you know, it was trial and error for the longest time. I mean, people will tell you, when we went HD and automated, I mean, our station took a hit with our ratings, like crazy. And you know, we're still coming back from that. We are, okay? I'm not, you know, I'm just telling you. So anyway, so the 6 of us, like, they basically took, so some people stepped down. They're like, yeah, I don't want to be part of this, but I'll be here for the training and whatever. So it became like 8 or 9 of us competing for 6 spots. Well, one of us got their name title changed. Well, she doesn't work there anymore, but I got mad when I found that out. Like, straight up. And I was like, well, you're not even in this anymore. Like, but see, people, they stab you in the back. They do. But like, but you know, whatever. She's fine and she's a great person, whatever. But like, you know, I was one of those 6 people. We ended up laying off 2 people. They gave us all a meeting, like after, you know, we'd done rehearsals, and they basically judged us, and they gave us a test, like who could code fast, who can, like, you know, put a commercial in, who can put, like, you know, Ellen together or Jeopardy together. I mean, my job is like 80 million things. Social media is required of me. You know, like, I'm responsible for a lot of things because of the position. So what I'm saying is, downsizing is happening. There's no, like, especially, I mean, Channel 7 fans, I know you're there, but they're going into a new building. They're going to this big new building. They're paying a lot of money. You cannot tell me they're keeping everybody. They're spending a lot of money. At the end of the day, TV's a business, okay? I'm not a manager, but I think like one, okay? And I act like one, because I'm the lead director. I'm supposed to. You cannot tell me they're keeping all this. No way. No way. Because of all the money. We helped raise this for 3 years at my station, because we went HD and automation. I didn't get a raise for 3 years, because I toughed it out, because I care. You know, a lot of people left. We had experienced directors who've been there 20, 15 years, and they left. And that's how I'm the senior director. Honestly, I stuck around. And you know what? I got some chance raise in December, so that was nice. But I did the math. I'm like, oh, this makes up for all the years I didn't get a raise. But we finally broke even like a year and a half ago, is what I'm saying. Like, they eliminated positions. Like, just now we added positions I was telling you about. That just happened because we broke even not too long ago. Plus, thank God for the Olympics. Oh. Our station is doing so much revenue right now. Like, okay, so Thursday, whatever day that was, the Olympics started, and then the opening ceremonies, our station did $55,000 in revenue. Now, where all that money goes, I have no idea. But it's a good time right now. So, just to kind of, there's no way that, like, full production teams are going to exist all the time, everywhere. I'm not saying every station's gonna get it right away, but I know that it's coming everywhere. Because when I was in LA, they were telling me, Maureen, Ross Overdrive is everywhere here, and no one knows how to do it. There are 329 of us who were initially trained by the Ross Overdrive people from Canada. I'm one of them. You wanna talk about job security? Crazy high for me and whoever learns this.
So you're saying that as people are gonna go into TV production here,
Right.
one of the things we have to be looking at some point is making sure people trained on that or whatever the tech is that's coming into the game.
Right, like the switcher you guys just bought, I was like, really?
So,
It's okay, things happen, I
you
get
gotta get
it.
what you get.
I get what you get, but, yeah, you know, it's just like, oh, internships, we have them. And if you become a production intern, I will definitely train you.
There's a
Sure.
bigger message here, because it applies to what Maureen has been talking about, but it applies to almost any aspect of what we call media today. That you have to be kind of looking forward, not back, at what's coming and not what was behind you. I had a former student who emailed me on LinkedIn last night. How many people have a LinkedIn account? Get a LinkedIn account, get a professional photo, be on there, network. I had started a few years ago in the social media metrics class, which is a relatively new class we teach, to start talking about search engine optimization, SEO. And I was on leave in Chicago last fall for about 8 days. And I had kind of gotten to the point going into this thinking that, SEO was all about search and websites, and social is so different, but everybody I talked to about social kept bringing me back to SEO. So I brought that back into the classroom last month. But the student, and I won't tell you exactly what sector he's in, but he learned a little bit about SEO in my class, and then learned some more. You can go online, and I just took in the fall a 6-week Google Analytics short course that you can certify in it. And I just turned 56 years old. What the heck am I doing? You have to be a lifelong learner of this stuff. But anyway, the short answer is that he does this for a business in town. I won't tell you what business it is, but he wrote me to say, search these 3 words on Google and see what comes up. And his business came up second on the list. He said, I learned that from you, and I'm making 6 figures doing this now because I'm really passionate about it. So it comes back to what you want to get into and what you want to drill down in. So Maureen has done it with state-of-the-art computerized production. You might do it in something else. But you have to find sort of your sweet spot. For me, it's been social media. I got in relatively early with Twitter. Saw that wave coming and have gone down that path. But you have to kind of find what you are comfortable working with and are willing to do 7 days a week and at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And be happy about it, right?
Without complaining, that's the worst thing you can do. Don't complain.
So before we keep going, any questions from the floor? I want to make sure we grab any. Twitter's being a little slow, so there's one posted up there. Take them all and post up. But if you've got a question, go for it.
I guess coming back to you, Maureen, you said that your network took a hit when you switched
To automation?
to automation
Yep.
and HD. Did you mean like in terms of employment, people took a hit, or like the network itself, your ratings?
Okay, so,
What is the reason for that?
so it's quite interesting. We are the NBC affiliate, yes, but we're not owned by NBC. We're owned by Gray Television Corporation, which is based out of Atlanta, and so our hands are tied when it comes to certain things, okay? So like when I said TV is a business, Ross Overdrive was introduced to us for a reason.
And what is that? What is a ROSA?
Ross Overdrive is what it's called. That's the equipment I use to put on a newscast. Talk to whoever you need to talk to. I could set up a tour sometime, and just it'll make more sense. I show it to you. But basically, all the Gray stations are going Ross Overdrive because it saves the company money. Because the biggest expense for a news outlet is staff. You gotta pay them, you gotta pay benefits, all this crap, right? Okay, so we took a hit with employment for sure. Like, it's been a revolving door the last 5 years. I've trained probably 8 people. They either stay for like about a year or less than a year, they either get out of the business, decide it wasn't for them, or they go back. So the problem is Cross Overdrive is that nobody comes to Omaha with Cross Overdrive experience. They're all going top 15 market because they got smart. Because I'm telling you, like I went working 74 to 2. That doesn't happen to people. That does not happen to people. Okay, so we took a hit with employment. People were not happy. Like I said, we held races for 3 years. It was unfortunate. And like for me, it was different because I went from like 9 something to 14. So like I didn't care the first 2 years. After 3, I was upset. See what I'm saying? So
And did ratings overall, like did the?
so ratings took a hit. Okay, so a lot of things go into ratings, all right? So, and we have consultants, we have research people, blah, blah, blah. They call your house, they ask you questions about us, for us. We pay them to do that. They're a third party, okay? So, and a lot of it rides on technical issues, and it rides on who is on TV, okay? You know, we had Pat Prasad right before I started working there, and she stepped down because she, you know, wanted to be at home with her kids. And then we promoted Tracy Madden, yes. And she did it for about 4 years, decided to step down also. Then Mallory came to nights. I would say when Mallory came to nights, things started to change. People like Mallory.
Were those direct responses to the HD automation switch though? Or
Yes.
was that just an employment thing?
Sorry?
Was that just an employment thing, or was that like in a response to your rating, or?
Oh, okay, so why did you do it?
Response to rating.
Why? Oh, okay.
Did the HD automation switch cause the ratings?
This is my question.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I get off on tangents all the time. But yeah, it did. Yeah,
Is there a reason? I mean, can you?
because people aren't experienced with it.
Okay.
I mean, like when we first started, I had 2 months of training. Like I literally worked the morning shift because I was on daybreak. Okay, I would work 3:30 a.m. to noon, 8 hours on the traditional stuff, and then I would train from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. each day, every day. Well, it wasn't every day. I got like 1 day off, but like
And
it
it
was literally
affected the
hardcore.
quality of the
It affected the
product.
quality of the product because we're all worn out because we're expected to do quality. There are no mistakes in TV. You can never have mistakes because that's when people change the channel. Yes, you see something technical wrong, you change the channel, right? We know that. You know, I feel like we've gotten smarter over the last 5 years, because I've been doing it 5 years now. And I mean, if you watched last night's 10 o'clock, I don't think you would see a mistake, because I did it, you know? But yes, we took a hit because, I mean, basically the initial 6, right?
This is the learning curve of the quality.
It's a learning curve of the quality. And so yes, that's correct. And if something you're gonna look into, I suggest you learn somehow before you even get there.
And I mean, your competitors aren't standing still while all this is going on.
Well,
right?
and here's,
They're-
7's out for our blood right now. There's all kinds of drama on Twitter I heard about, and I'm just like, it is unprofessional. Oh my God, we would never do that to them. So upset with them right now. But you know what, whatever. I'm gonna do my job and do it awesomely because I don't care. But you know, that's just how I roll. It's just,
No kidding.
oh my God, it's been ridiculous. Like, and then people that I know is the thing. I've met in person and they're talking crap. And they're stealing our stories. They're like redoing them. And it's like, we did that 2 years ago. They're like going back to our old sweep stories and taking them. And it's like, sorry, I just, it's been crazy lately. I just,
You can blame it all for our sleep.
oh,
Blame it all on sweeps.
God.
So,
Okay.
speaking of that, the question came up on Twitter, and I was bouncing this idea around. In case you didn't catch it last week, Comcast, which is
Yes.
#1 for cable and broadband provider, is moving to buy Time Warner, which is #2. Comcast owns NBC Universal. If they did not own NBC Universal, which then owns NBC, which then licenses to WWT, so there's a trickle-down effect that's going on here. If they didn't own NBC Universal, this would be strictly a broadband provider merger, therefore the FCC might not be involved. However, they own NBC, which is one of the broadcasting legacy television companies, therefore now the FCC gets involved.
Right.
So I am curious to those on the panel, specifically, what are your thoughts on what this merger means? And in general, what is this kind of merger, when we're talking also a reversion back to Ma Bell days, what does this kind of merger mean for media in the United States? Since we are a commercial driven space, what does it mean? Or what might it mean? Think on that.
Well, I'd just say, I think we're still in the middle of a dramatic tectonic shift that started about 1994 with the internet, and you have two really big threads that are at work. One is these huge media companies getting even larger
Right.
and controlling even more of the main sort of stream of media. And then there's this other kind of culture of innovation coming primarily out of Silicon Valley, but also increasingly out of big Omaha. I've seen over 1,000 startups in Chicago now, where people are harnessing the internet to do new things. So these are by and large very small startups of sometimes a couple of people trying to launch something. And so both things are happening simultaneously. There's sort of rumblings at the gate of big media because everybody now has a voice. Everybody is potentially their own media company at the same time that media are trying to kind of reorient. So, AOL buys Huffington Post. And so we just keep kind of going with this. And so it is a business. It's a big business, and even the little players are trying to become big players.
Right.
I mean, personally, I guess I have some concerns about large mergers like that in terms of the major media companies. It seems like we think that there are lots of information channels out there, and I guess if you include a lot of the startups that Dr. Lipschultz is talking about, that's true. But if you think about it, it's the larger companies that are still controlling a lot of the media in this country, and what you see, at least in the traditional media, and even on the internet, cable channels, all that kind of stuff, they're owned by fewer and fewer companies. And I do think that it diminishes to some degree the number of voices that you hear providing information. And again, I guess it'll be sort of a battle with what Dr. Lipschultz is talking about, whether the big companies are going to keep fighting it out, or whether startups are going to draw more of an audience. I don't know. It's an interesting time, but personally, I get a little concerned about when big companies like that are merging. I think it's going to raise costs for customers, but beyond that, I think it kind of, when you have only a handful of people owning a lot of the major media, I think that raises some concerns.
One of the interesting things for you guys, I think, is the idea about how you fit into this changing atmosphere, right? And Maureen actually touched on one of the ways that you can have a huge advantage. There are a couple of ways. One is understand the technology in your field by the time you start, or soon thereafter. There's a lot of people at newspapers, at TV stations, at radio stations who don't want to make that switch. For fair enough, but that's the opportunity for you, right? Know it better than they do, and you're always going to have a job. The second thing is what Dr. Lipschultz was mentioning, which is, underneath the giant corporations and the massive mergers is this, beautiful, strange creation known as the internet, where you can find at this point, whatever you're into, right? Let's say that what you really care about in this world is, what's something really weird? You really love donkeys, okay? You're really passionate about the care and treatment of the American donkey. And I brought that up for a specific reason, because I wrote about a donkey that an American service member was bringing from Iraq to the United States. I actually wrote a couple stories about this donkey. As it turned out, this donkey was very popular with our readers. His name was Smoke. And to this day, I get pitches and emails from these various donkey websites and organizations, right? I mean, these things exist, and I mean, obviously, I hope that you're not actually into the American Donkey. It's really weird, but if you're passionate about writing or about journalism and about something else, that's a huge opportunity. Find your niche online. You know, I mean, that is not. I mean, the scary thing is you might not have benefits. You probably won't. But you know, that's another way in that wasn't available when I started in journalism 15 years ago or 10 years ago. So, and the third thing is foreign language, and that hasn't changed. I mean, that was the same as when I came out of college. If you're bilingual, you have such a leg up on people that are applying for similar jobs. I have a good friend who just went from the World Herald to the Chicago Tribune. One of the main reasons, and the Chicago Tribune is in a bad shape, right? This is not a newspaper that's generally hiring people. You know, one of the main reasons he was hired is because he's bilingual, and because that's such a hard thing that for newspapers to find. Really bilingual, by the way, not sort of bilingual in a, I took, you know, Spanish 201 and therefore I can, you know, sort of talk to my classmate for a minute. If you really know a second language, you are going to have a job in journalism.
Yep, guaranteed.
More than anything else, I would urge you to do that if you're interested in the industry.
If I knew Spanish, I'd have a job in LA today.
So, let's talk about that for a second. I'm gonna get to this question of net neutrality. If someone wants to get into the industry, it sounds like learn a second language, find a niche that you can work on. I mean, as far as, you know, classes and programs and work and internships and all those things, when should they get started? If I want to get into the media industry, what are the next few steps? I'm a first-year student in college. I want to get into it. What are the next few steps I need to take?
Yesterday.
Yesterday?
Do it now. Now.
How many people have a blog? You know, take your interest that Matt's talking about and start blogging it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's huge. The idea of work for the school paper, work for the TV station, work for the radio station, find whatever internships you can in the summer. They will, at least on the newspaper side, will generally pay you. You know, there's all these small newspapers around Omaha where you can get summer jobs like that. I mean, there's just, it's basically, if you're serious about getting into newspapers, for example, the main way you do that is to do it. I mean, there's just really no substitute for experience. And when you can show an employer at age 25 that you've worked at 5 different places and you've written 1,000 stories versus somebody who just kind of went through the classes and then is applying for the same job, the person who wrote the 1,000 stories is going to get the job, even if the other person is smarter
Right.
or got better grades.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, I already told you guys that, like, I walked in, you know, on UNO's campus and I knew I wanted to do broadcasting, right? I know a lot of you, you know, probably don't know exactly what you want to do yet, but figure it out. Just figure it out. Or learn everything. If you don't know, then just learn everything. Like, you know, I went to school for reporting and anchoring, you know, these kinds of things. You know, and I wanted to be on Air Talent, you know, and then I thought that was what I wanted, you know, but like, you know, but just know that there are other avenues in television, you know, besides on Air Talent, besides behind the scenes in production. There's sales, there's creative services that work on promotions and things like that. There is management, you know, in TV. You know, managers still exist. You do report to somebody. There's all like topical producing, the person who actually just produces news content commercials, if you will. Okay. Positions that are, you know, around that you may not necessarily know about, because whenever, you know, at least in my experience with like TV, people don't really know on air and like someone who works behind the scenes, or like photographers that go out with reporters, or editors that, you know, are at the station editing the whole show, those kinds of things. However, with that said, you don't just do one thing. That's not, no. One-man bands are back, all right? They tell you one-man band here, you better learn it to a T. To a T. Because it's going to happen to you in this market. Maybe not at Channel 7, but it happens at my station. You know, and if you are hired as a BPJ, we call it backpack journalist, all right? You want to be on it, right? Okay. You go here, carry your own stuff, drive your vehicle. You got like take 8 hours. Take 8 hours and see if you can do a package. Take 8 hours. Check out some equipment. I don't care if it's assigned to you or not. Go out and do it on a Saturday. Set up interviews. Tell them you're doing it for school. Seriously, time yourself. That's going to make you better. I wish I would have done that.
I'm going to actually go with you, Dr. Wilson, at this point. So, with everything said, what do we do? So, tell us about the program. How does it work? How does it function? Give us a promo on journalism, MediaCom, in the School of Communication.
About the majors?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are actually in the process of revising our curriculum that will be implemented in the fall. But right now, we have, if you were to come into the School of Communication right now, our existing majors are in journalism, broadcasting, and speech communication. Within broadcasting, we have broadcast news and new media. Within journalism, we have news editorial and public relations advertising. If you want to get into the School of Communication, we are part of the College of Communication, Fine Arts, and Media. You can talk to an advisor in the college about transferring from wherever, whatever program you're in. You can come talk to me if that would be helpful. I brought some business cards if anybody is interested in one afterward. So basically that's the divisions of our program. One of the things that we do require is an internship. And one of the hats I wear in the School of Communication is the internship coordinator. And I guess just to emphasize what all of these folks have already been saying, you know, that along with other work experience is what is really going to get you a job in this field. Sometimes I have students complain because we require them to do an internship. You know, most UNO students are working 1, 2, 3 jobs. I get that, I understand that, but it's ultimately the internship that is, and related experience that you get at the college radio station, at the Gateway, UNO television. You know, that's ultimately what's going to help you get a job down the road.